I'm not gonna fucking fight you, dude.
I want somebody to say, like, are you wrong? Because I'm
I think you're right.
Our good old Ethan Blastoise Toys says, the last Cold War plot in the series, a great one, although as convoluted as Octopussy.
Not the last one. He's wrong about that. It's not the last Cold War plot, but keep going.
What is?
Goldeneye.
Well, actually, you're right, because there's like a backstory.
Yes,
but it's technically post-Cold War.
But it ties into the Cold War.
Yeah, it's like pre and post. But anyway.
Yeah.
I'll put it right above Octopussy on your list. He doesn't say why, though. Great soundtrack, chock full of great set pieces. The PTS. What is PTS? The PTS, the plane fight, helping Yorgi defect,
Yorgi.
the milk carton bombing, using Pushkin's whore to distract Pushkin. Was that a... No, was it?
No, it's his
wife.
wife.
Was Pushkin's wife.
Yeah, I think it's his
Yeah,
wife.
they seem to like each other.
Using Pushkin's whore to distract Pushkin, and Dalton is great. Deemed a literary Bond. Deserved more outings. Yeah. K1 says, one of the best movies in the series until they get to Afghanistan. Then I forget everything that happens. That being said, the extraction from USSR at the concert is 10 out of 10. Ryan McCurdy says, you just hate Goldfinger.
I did.
Because he's an asshole.
I did.
To which QWERTY said, shut up, McCurdy. He was doing what Scott couldn't do.
McCurdy, shut up.
You're doing the same thing you did back at Goldfinger.
Fucking mouth.
Cyborg 800 2004 says, a top 6 film for me. It comes off as an ordinary formulaic Bond film, but everything is executed so competently.
I disagree with everything he just said. Because I feel like he's never watched all the Bond films. Because there's nothing formulaic about this movie. Okay, the scenes are complex. I'll give him that. The scenes are whatever.
The film is all around solid, but is really elevated by Timothy Dalton's performance. He isn't as intense as in License to Kill, which I actually slightly prefer to this film. What's that? I haven't heard of that movie. We haven't gotten there yet.
Never seen
but
that
he
one.
brings back some much needed credibility to the role. Dalton isn't as magnetic as Connery or Moore, and that's a good thing. He's by far the most believable spy, along with Lazenby. Other than Dalton's fantastic performance, we have a strong final score from John Barry, a balanced selection of set pieces, and one of the most engrossing plots in the franchise.
People are liking the set pieces.
What? Even the somewhat limp third act still isn't bad. It just doesn't compare to the near-flawless first 2 acts. A criticism that can also be aimed at other Bond films consideed to be the best. That goes against everything we've been talking about.
No.
Everything we've been talking about.
Okay, let's talk about the last, like the first, the films that are on the top of our list, right, are Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, and The Spy Who Loved Me. Goldfinger, we've talked about a bunch of times. At Bondiism. I'm going to start saying that. We talked about how basically
Bond nauseum.
We know that we know that if Bond does not just stop this bomb, he's gonna screw up the world economy, and that's a big bad, and like the people will get killed as well in the processes of it. So we know we know that that's a thing that we should care about, and it's like important to the plot. From Russia with Love is like a more personal story about getting the Lecter right. There's more to it than just that. It's a revenge tale for Spectre to get Bond, and obviously they fail at getting revenge on Bond, so there's all of that. Also getting Romanova out of the clutches of the KGB / Spectre. The thing that I wanted to point out, though, The Spy Who Loved Me, which was we talked about, it was a remake of You Only Live Twice, is that and it's always been a Spectre plot, is like, put the West against the East and make it look like it was a natural occurrence, but we're actually moving the chess pieces so that they fight each other. That's what this movie needed. And it felt like the pieces were there, they just didn't put that plot in motion. Like, they have the idea of like, oh, I'm going to make it look like they're going to start killing spies off, and so now we're going to start killing Russian spies.
Everything that Koskov says in that boardroom meeting was more interesting than what the plot turned out to be.
Exactly.
The movie that he was pitching, like pretend he's a director and he's pitching a story to the Eon folks. He's like, Smear Spionum's coming back and it's going to start World War III. And instead, it just is about moving money around and buying guns. It's stupid. So to say that it's like a flawless plot goes against
No,
everything
I
we've been
don't
saying.
agree with
Like
him.
that's not true at all.
No.
This plot sucks, but it's full of like really awesome Bondy moments and a great performance that doesn't surpass. Again, it's like you can throw all that stuff at me all day, but if I don't care, it means nothing. Sneaky Bond says, because of its less memorable villains and lower key, somewhat complicated plot, yes, The Living Daylights is a movie that would either
So far,
rise
so
or
good.
fall based on the Bond actor's performance. Luckily, we have Timothy Dalton in the role. No matter the production, Dalton always has a unique screen presence, a kind of sophisticated intensity I assume he acquired as a stage actor. As a result, his Bond is cynical and harder-edged, yet classy and romantic. True. That complements the Cold War settings featured in The Living Daylights, and it contributes to the excellent chemistry between Bond and Kara. So yeah, Dalton's performance elevates this into my top 10. Beyond that, there's also John
Damn.
Barry's fantastic score and a number of great set pieces, including the pre-title sequence, the car chase, and pretty much any fight with Necros. Again, that's all true, other than the fact that
It's true for the
Bond
second.
and
Like everything in
Kara-
the top's true.
Yeah.
Bond and Kara isn't like, if this movie was just about Bond and Kara, yeah, totally. But
They complicate it and overstuff it.
it doesn't take their story and
No.
elevate it. Like again, I'm
No.
sorry to keep citing Casino Royale, but it's the best case of a Bond romance that we have to date. I'm breaking my own rule, but I'm doing it for a purpose. It's like their romance was wrapped up in the plot. This is wrapped up in a plot that just doesn't add anything. Unfortunately. So, like everything he said is true, other than the fact that the plot is good. It's like the movie is weighed down by its plot. Snus and Whiskey says, to me, The Living Daylights is one of the middle movies, not one of the best and not one of the worst. The Living Daylights, in my opinion, is a quite overlooked movie by the general audience. It lies between A View to a Kill and License to Kill that are more memorable movies. Being a fan of campy Bond, I still have to say that I enjoy The Living Daylights. I assume he means the pre-title sequence is one of
That's what it was. PTS. Okay, pre-title sequence.
Not preteen skank.
Oh,
That Urban Dictionary led me to believe.
Okay, Blastoise. The pre-title sequence is one of the best in the whole series, and the soundtrack is great. The ice chase and the fight with Necros are also memorable. However, the characters are quite lame and forgettable, to be honest. The villains and the Bond girl are very dull and non-memorable, and Dalton's Bond doesn't work well with a gadget car, as Connery and Moore's Bond did. So a good Bond movie, but with some more memorable characters and more threatening villains, this movie would have been much higher ranked for me.
I kind of agree with what he's saying. Like, yeah, I'm pretty much kind of on board where he's at. I don't know where his rankings are, but yeah, I'm
We're
more
starting
on board.
to see the commonalities between the comments, which are like, Dalton's cool.
It's in my
the
top
plot
whatever
sucks.
because Dalton's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people are so attached to Dalton the actor, knowing that not only did he do this movie, he's done other movies, so he never got weighed down with being like James
They're attaching
Bond.
him to the next one, it sounds like. And everyone acknowledges, yeah, the plot's like convoluted and dumb.
The movie's bad, but Dalton's good. It's like, we're here to
Yeah.
judge the movie. Cabe Netcore says, for me, the first half or so of The Living Daylights is the closest to my platonic ideal of a faithful Ian Fleming adaptation. Not in terms of literal translation, but in capturing the feel and mood of a lot of Fleming's work, and comes the closest to capturing my mental image of the literary Bond. I probably overrate the movie and admit it's not even a top 5, but in a vacuum, the first half is just so good, so Cold War, and so Fleming-esque that it's a favorite.
Cold War is cool.
No, I get what he's saying, though. I can agree with, like, again, like I've said, the beginning of the movie is one of the more memorable parts of the movie. Yeah, you probably watch it the most because you watch the beginning of the
Had
movie.
the defection
but, like,
been real, it would have been
but like the defection
fantastic.
sequence, not the Gibraltar stuff, but the defection sequence, I remember probably the most out of that movie where they, they put him in the pipeline and all that stuff. I like
Yeah.
that scene actually. So I get what he's saying as far as that feeling more like a Bond book rather than the rest of the movie.
Gamer Grill 95 says, well, there are a few stinkers and a few absolute pieces of gold. This one is neither. It's one of the many solid good ones. It checks every box I can imagine in the Bond film formula. Opening action scene in a interesting locale, gadgets, car chase, intimidating lackey, campy villain in Whitaker, falling from great heights, light humor, a small plot twist, and a large battle near the end. It embodies the formula perfectly, but also does nothing to really stand out from the crowd. Okay, it has the pieces of the formula, but they don't congeal.
The puzzle pieces are there, but they're not assembled into a nice picture.
Yellow Army 79 says, it's not without its flaws. The villains are a real problem and come across as pretty goofy and no match for Bond. Koskov is okay and plays the sleazeball character well, but it needed Whitaker to be a stronger character, and he just doesn't get enough screen time to do that. Nodding my fucking head. The plot is rather complicated and a little underwhelming, yes. Despite this, The Living Daylights is a great Bond film. Dalton is terrific and has a great chemistry with Kara. Their romance feels very believable and elevates the film. There's some great action scenes, and it plays out as a proper old-fashioned spy thriller. It's definitely in my top 5 Bond films at this moment. A lot of top 5, a lot of people saying top 5.
Yeah,
They're like, this movie sucks and is in the middle.
This
but
movie
it's in my top
sucks.
5.
Top 5.
Like,
Because Tim Dalton.
just like last time, all anybody could say was like, well, Sean Connery's really great. It's like, this time it's Timothy Dalton's really great. It's like, yes, but unfortunately, this amazing titan of an actor was handed the worst possible starter script for his breakout into the role. And it's a goddamn crime. It's depressing. But and I don't know if he had any say in the matter. I wonder if he read it and he was like, this doesn't make any sense.
This plot sounds rather far-fetched, sir.
I think someone like that is going to be like, okay, I'm getting this huge role. Like, who gives a shit what the script
Sure.
is? You know what I mean? Like, it's
But
a big
he read all
opportunity.
14 books and he doesn't have anything to say? I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate. Maybe he just trusted that, like, maybe the script made more sense.
It'll come together
And
in
it
editing.
all, yeah, it all
No,
got just
but-
destroyed.
To be fair, if you're reading the books, if you're thinking about, like, at least the only book that I have read is Casino Royale and Live and Let Die. Those books don't really have, like, these huge, giant stakes like some of the movies do, because that works really well in a movie. And a novel, you can get away with more character stuff because you're in the character's head.
Yeah.
So, like, I could see him being like, okay, well, I'm reading these books, so I'm really in the character's head. And this is kind of the vibe as what was the books. And that is, like, kind of just a very vague sense of what actually kind of does happen between two countries that are at odds with each other, but not actually going to war. And in that realm, this plot kind of makes sense in that. But as far as a movie goes, if I'm going to a movie, I want to be entertained and I want to be thrilled and I want to care about what's going on. If you can't do those things, you're not going to win me over to really liking this movie.
On that downer note, I'm going to throw in the Bond jokes real quick, which there's just 2, which is he got the boot
He got the boot.
and he met his Waterloo.
He met his Waterloo.
It's a history joke.
he's trying to be
the boot.
Napoleon.
It has to go to he got the boot, but it's weak. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's like we haven't had a good Bond joke in a while. It kind of makes
I
me
think
want to.
you've had your 8 now. Here, have my 80 is probably more memorable than either
That
of
was
those.
cool.
For
that
sure.
one,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
Speaks
Yeah.
out, and you're like, I know that one.
yeah.
You know.